The battle for technological supremacy isn't just about faster gadgets. It's about global power, national security, and the future of the economy. But is the US losing the tech war against China? Let's dive in and unpack the details, because this isn't just about who makes the coolest smartphone. It's about who will control the rules of the global economy in the coming decades. For decades, the United States has led the world in technology, innovation, and digital entrepreneurship. Silicon Valley has been the crown jewel of global tech innovation, producing companies like Apple, Google, Microsoft, NVIDIA, and Meta. These companies don't just make consumer products. They shape the world's digital infrastructure, set software standards, and influence global internet policies. Meanwhile, China has been quietly and strategically positioning itself to compete and eventually surpass the US in critical technologies. Programs like Made in China 2025 and China Standards 2035 are not just slogans, they're long-term government strategies backed by hundreds of billions of dollars. In fact, China now invests over $500 billion annually in technology, from artificial intelligence and semiconductors to renewable energy and quantum computing. That's enough money to buy a small fleet of Teslas, and maybe even a lunar rover or two if they wanted. Semiconductors are at the heart of this competition. They power everything from smartphones and laptops to drones, electric cars, and advanced military equipment. The US remains dominant in semiconductor design, with companies like Intel, AMD, and NVIDIA leading the world in advanced chip architecture. However, manufacturing has largely shifted to Asia, particularly Taiwan, where TSMC produces over 90% of the world's most advanced chips. China, recognizing this vulnerability, has been investing heavily in domestic chip production, aiming to reduce reliance on foreign suppliers. The US has tried to counter this with export restrictions on advanced chip-making equipment and critical technologies, essentially trying to slow China's progress without starting a full-blown conflict. It's a high-stakes game. Imagine designing the ultimate chocolate cake recipe, but relying on someone else to bake it perfectly, under high pressure, every time. Artificial intelligence is another key frontier. China has a massive advantage in data, thanks to its population of over 1.4 billion people, which provides an enormous testing ground for AI systems. The US, however, still dominates cutting-edge AI research, algorithms, cloud computing infrastructure, and AI-driven enterprise solutions. Both countries are racing to develop AI for practical applications, military systems, healthcare, finance, autonomous vehicles, and even creative industries. Whoever gains a significant lead in AI will not only have more efficient software and smarter devices, they'll control the standards, rules, and ethical frameworks for global AI deployment. Supply chains are another battlefield that often goes unnoticed, but is absolutely critical. The COVID-19 pandemic revealed the fragility of global supply chains and highlighted how dependent the US and Europe are on Asia for electronics, rare earths, batteries, and other essential materials. China, meanwhile, has been strengthening its domestic production and expanding global influence through strategic investments, acquisitions, and partnerships. The US is attempting to catch up by reshoring some production, building alliances with countries like Japan, South Korea, and Australia, and incentivizing domestic chip factories. These efforts aim to reduce reliance on any single country for critical technologies, but they take time and enormous investment. Without robust supply chains, even the most advanced innovations can grind to a halt, leading to delays, higher costs, and vulnerability in strategic sectors. Talent is a decisive factor in this race. The US continues to attract top global talent through its universities, research labs, and tech hubs. It maintains a thriving startup ecosystem, supported by venture capital, which allows ideas to move rapidly from concept to global scale. China, however, is producing hundreds of thousands of STEM graduates every year, heavily funding research projects, and incentivizing domestic talent to stay or return from abroad. In AI research publications, China now surpasses the US in quantity, although the quality gap still favors American institutions. It's like a marathon where one runner is faster, but another has a massive team of cheerleaders pushing them along. Sometimes sheer volume can be as powerful as speed. Cybersecurity and intellectual property add even more complexity to this competition. Both nations invest heavily in defending their digital borders while simultaneously trying to gain insights into the other's advancements. Accusations of hacking, corporate espionage, and state-sponsored cyber attacks have become almost daily headlines. These aren't just corporate rivalries. They're battles that could determine military superiority, economic resilience, and national security. For the US, the fear is losing its technological edge. For China, the goal is to accelerate advancements, sometimes using methods the US considers unfair or aggressive. Beyond AI and semiconductors, other emerging technologies are part of the battlefield. China is investing heavily in biotechnology, advanced materials, and green energy. Solar panels, wind turbines, electric vehicles, and battery technologies are all areas of strategic competition. The nation that leads in clean energy technologies will not only profit economically, but will control critical components of the global energy transition. Meanwhile, the US continues to innovate in software, defense technologies, aerospace, and biotechnology, but faces regulatory hurdles, slower adoption of industrial policies, and competition from China's centralized approach. Geopolitically, the consequences of this tech race are enormous. Countries around the world are forced to navigate between competing standards, technologies, and supply chains. Developing nations may adopt Chinese 5G networks, or AI systems, while advanced economies continue to rely on US software and cloud services. Global supply chains, trade agreements, and even military alliances are increasingly influenced by who controls key technologies. Economic power, military strength, and global influence are now intertwined with technological leadership. China's strategy also involves leveraging its massive domestic market. With over 1.4 billion consumers, China can scale technologies rapidly and use its domestic success as a springboard for global influence. US companies, by contrast, rely heavily on international markets for growth, making them more exposed to global economic fluctuations. Additionally, China's government-led approach allows for long-term planning and massive investments in key sectors without the same market pressures US companies face. This creates a unique competitive advantage. China can take calculated risks, fund large-scale projects, and push innovations that might be too risky in a purely market-driven system. But the US still has strengths that cannot be ignored. The innovation ecosystem, intellectual property protections, venture capital networks, world-class universities, and entrepreneurial culture provide a dynamic environment for rapid technological advancement. The US also benefits from deep collaborations with allies in Europe, Japan, South Korea, and Israel, creating a network of innovation and defense capabilities that China cannot easily replicate. So, is the US losing the tech war? Not yet. The US still leads in critical areas like high-end AI, semiconductor design, cloud infrastructure, and software ecosystems. But the gap is closing, and China's state-driven investments, massive talent pool, and strategic vision make it a formidable competitor. The balance of power and technology will influence global economics, military strategy, international regulations, and global alliances for decades to come. The stakes of this competition go far beyond headlines and stock prices. The tech war is reshaping global geopolitics, forcing nations to reconsider alliances, trade agreements, and security strategies. Countries are increasingly aligning themselves with either US-led or China-led technological ecosystems, from 5G networks and AI platforms to semiconductor supply chains. For the US, maintaining its edge is not just about innovation. It's about safeguarding national security, protecting critical infrastructure, and ensuring that its allies remain interoperable with American technologies. Meanwhile, China's approach, centralized planning, massive state-backed investments, and a long-term vision allows it to pursue ambitious projects with a level of coordination and speed that market-driven economies often struggle to match. This doesn't mean the US is doomed. Far from it. Its ecosystem of startups, venture capital, and research institutions continues to produce breakthroughs that keep it at the forefront of global tech. But the margin for error is shrinking. Decisions made today about regulation, talent development, international cooperation, and supply chain resilience will determine whether the US continues to lead or merely competes on China's terms in the decades ahead. In short, the tech race is no longer just a competition. It's a defining element of 21st century power. Ultimately, the tech war between the US and China isn't just a story about gadgets, apps, or social media. It's a story about control, influence, and the future of global power. Whoever navigates this competition most effectively will shape the 21st century. It's a high-stakes, multi-layered chess game where the rules are still being written. And somewhere in the background, the world watches, aware that the next breakthrough in AI, semiconductors, or quantum computing could tip the scales, for better or worse. In conclusion, the US is not losing the tech war outright, but the landscape is changing fast. China's relentless investment, strategic planning, and growing technological capabilities mean that the US must continuously innovate, secure its supply chains, and maintain its talent edge to stay ahead. The future of technology, and with it, global influence, will be decided by innovation, strategy, and execution. And in this global race, no country can afford to take its foot off the accelerator, because falling behind even slightly could have repercussions for decades to come.